Build Your Business listeners. This is Matt Reynolds, your host for the podcast, and you are listening to what we are calling the legacy episodes. And really, these are the pre-episodes that really led to this podcast, the Build Your Business podcast. This is really my life's work and my brother's life's work in building your business. And so they were originally published in the Barbell Logic podcast as part of the Principles or Coaching Success series, but really touch on similar topics to the Build Your Business podcast: how to improve your productivity, how to set and accomplish your goals, deprioritize urgent tasks, to focus on what is most important to you, and most importantly, to become a better person and leader and business owner overall. I'm proud to bring you these podcasts. Again, many years of life's work, several years of podcasts, and several decades of business ownership. Hope you enjoy them and learn from them. You're listening to Barbell Logic,
the podcast where we talk about what it means to experience strength
and how you can use simple, hard, and effective strategies in training and nutrition to improve your life.
It starts with meeting you where you are right now and finding lasting solutions.
Welcome to the show. You're listening to the Barbell Logic podcast. I'm your host, Matt Reynolds. This is another episode of the Coaching Success series. Hey, it's been a couple weeks. Last week was a replay. I apologize. I wasn't able to get a new one out. I've been on the road for 3 weeks on business and currently in Austin in my hotel room. So the sound quality is not going to be great because I'm not in my studio, but here for a military conference. If you hadn't seen it, we had a press release come out in the last couple of days that we landed another big military contract. So we're excited for that. And we're down here doing some work. And then in another couple of weeks, I've got to go to Hill Air Force Base in Ogden, Utah. We'll work with the team there. And so wanted to dive right in like we always do. And the topic for today is when to break the rules, when it's okay to break the rules. And I think sometimes people can listen to this podcast or other business podcasts, or certainly people who are more successful even than us or than me. And there is a way of doing things in the corporate world. And the downside of that is often that you sacrifice speed for making sure that you check all the boxes and do it right. So as businesses get bigger and get more corporate and have more employees, then you want to make sure you do all the things correctly and that every employee has a specific manager that they direct report to. But if we instead start at the beginning, and we've talked about books like The E-Myth, which is one of my favorite books. If you are a business owner, especially a young entrepreneur, someone who's owned a business for less than say 3 years, you don't have a bunch of employees, I think The E-Myth, I think it's called The E-Myth Revisited, is the best business book that's out there for you in the position that you're in currently. And that book really lays out the idea that in the beginning, you are the owner of the business, you are the manager in the business, and you are the technician in the business. So let's say you open up a little, 1,500 square foot brick and mortar gym. You're the owner of the gym, you're the manager of the gym, and you're the coach and the custodian and the front desk staff and all the technician type stuff. And one thing I've noticed is after almost 10 years of business here at Barbell Logic, we still have some places like that. And it's okay. So I want to let you know, like, the thing that you're going to trade off is that it's okay to break the rules when it allows you to gain speed or nimbleness, like you're able to be more nimble and move fast or save money. And so those are the times when it's okay to break the rules. And so there are still places that we can look at our org chart or our business or, the overarching way we do things. And there are people on staff, which I won't call out specifically, that have really more than one job. And because they have more than one job, and sometimes those jobs are really like not related, they might have more than one manager. And it's always better if somebody has one manager. But sometimes, rather than having to hire another position and pay them $50 or $60 or $70,000 a year, you have a person that can wear two hats or sometimes 3 hats. Or when you're the owner of a brand new business, you might wear 10 hats. And over time, you hire out the lowest wage service or, lowest wage employee type product, and you get to take that hat off and give it to them. But then you're wearing 9 hats, not 10. And in a perfect world, everybody wears one hat, except the downside of that big corporate structure is that it slows everything down. And we see this perfectly in the government, in the US government. Like, again, I think the checks and balances that the founders of the Constitution created are fantastic. I love the Constitution. I think it's a brilliant document. But the reality is, because of the checks and balances, it slows everything down. And so in the early days of Facebook, and I'm not saying I'm a big Facebook fan or a Zuckerberg fan, but their motto was to move fast and break things. And the idea was they were going to try to be faster than anyone else. You had MySpace, you had, a couple other social media platforms. Facebook was going to move faster than everybody else. They were going to do some stuff wrong. They were going to break some stuff, and then they were going to fix it afterwards. It's that idea of it's always better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. And so there are times when you're young, as a startup owner, as a business owner, you don't have a lot of employees, that you can move really fast, that you can literally set your alarm tomorrow morning for 4 a.m. and you can get up and work 2 or 3 hours before you have to be at the gym, and you can get a whole bunch accomplished that doesn't have to go through the bureaucratic red tape of all of the other directors and managers and employees, et cetera, that even Barbell Logic has to do. And we've tried to stay as nimble as we can, but I can see that we're just not as fast as we used to be in making changes or making product changes or changing prices or like whatever those things are. Like, you could do that in 15 minutes. And so it's okay to leverage the advantage of speed and cost, because that's the advantage that you can play. That's the cards that you can play against bigger businesses who cannot play that hand of cards. Obviously, there are many other fitness companies that are bigger than us. As you build your company, whether that's in fitness or another industry, if you can move quickly, I would push you to move quickly. If you have to wear multiple hats to do that, if you have an employee or a couple employees and they have to wear multiple hats and they have to report to different people, I would say do it. Like, it's okay, right? There is a perfect world and a perfect org chart, at least theoretically, that you can put together. You should always have sort of a dream organizational chart or org chart in your business of, this is 5 years from now, this is what I would like the business to look like. These are all the positions in the business. But we just hired a new VP of finance that we hope will turn into a CFO position. And so there are new people being added. But as you add more people and you add more employees and you add more staff and you have more clients and you have more time under your belt, and we're almost a decade at this point, it slows you down. And so you probably, and we don't want you to, you probably can't compete with Barbell Logic with the amount of infrastructure that we have in our number of coaches, employees, clients, potentially money in the bank, things like that. But the reality is that for us as a value-driven business, we're not trying to steal market share from people or from you if you're a coach. We're trying to grow the whole pie. And so if we have 10% of the pie, we just like to make the pie bigger, right? It's like ordering the pizza. Like, you can order the small or the medium pizza or the extra large pizza, and you can still have one piece of pizza, which is still, let's say, 1/8 or 1/10 of the pizza, but it's a lot more pizza than 1/8 or 1/10 of a small pizza. Like, it's still the same percentage of the pizza, but it's a lot more pizza. And so for us, I think hopefully the industry is starting to see us as industry leaders in the online coaching space. If you're in that space or the gym ownership space or the hybrid model space, we're trying to do things that actually improve value, not just to our coaches and our clients, but to you as a coach and to your clients. And the place that you can move and make moves and grow is in your ability to be fast. You can be faster than us. Because for us, we have to have the meetings and everybody has to sign off on the stuff. And then again, you can take, obviously, Barbell Logic is still a small business. You can take that to the far end of the US government and just imagine how much bureaucratic red tape you have to get through to make any sort of changes whatsoever. But on the other side, if you're a business owner of one, an employee of one, and there was obviously a time when Barbell Logic was an employee of one and it was me, then I could move really fast and make changes and pivot and all those sorts of things. We don't get to do that now. So that's the time that you take to break the rules. You can break the rules. You don't have to have, a COO and a CFO and a CMO and a head of HR, which we call CXO, and a CEO. Like those actually don't even exist until you're literally a C corporation. You can call them what you want. But the reality is that you're the owner, you're the manager, you're the technician. And then you hire the custodian. And the custodian, who should report to the manager, actually reports to the owner, because the owner, you, are the owner and the manager. And then eventually you're going to hire a manager. And the custodian is going to report to the manager. And the manager is going to report to you. And so I don't want to get ahead of ourselves where we get to a point where we say like, oh, this seems so complicated. We need an org chart with 25 or 30 or 50 different people on it. You don't. When you're young, you're fast. And so you use speed to break the rules. And when you use speed to break the rules, and because you have far less employees, you have far less payroll. So the cost to speed ratio is much faster and much better and much cheaper than what a company like Barbell Logic can do. And our ratio or cost of speed is much faster than, pick the bigger company that's out there in the fitness world or in that industry. We can move faster than them. And so that's where your advantage lies, is in speed. The challenge for you this week is to think about what moves you need to make to move the needle quickly. For us, moving the needle, we have to create an entire plan to move the needle. We have to approve it by mission control and the executives. We have to run it through the board meeting, and it slows everything down. But if you are the owner and you're the only employee, or you only have one or two employees, you can make a decision, an educated decision, not just something where you're putting your finger up in the air and feeling the wind and which way the wind is blowing, but you're actually making an educated decision. You can make a change really quickly, like in 24 hours, that I cannot do anymore. And so that's when it's okay to break the rules. So it's okay to break the rules when it allows you to move faster than the companies that are bigger than you, or move cheaper than the companies that are bigger than you. And for most of you, that will actually mean that you'll get both. You'll be faster and cheaper. And that's how you continue to gain traction in the industry. And so again, if I'm trying to compete against those of you listening to this, I would never put this podcast out. We're trying to change the lives of as many people as possible to improve their quality of life through strength training and fitness. And we can't change the world at just Barbell Logic online coaching. And so that's why we've moved to Turnkey Coach and license out the product to the software to other coaches. That's why we put out this free content, because we want to grow the whole pie, not take a bigger percentage of the pie. It's an attitude of abundance rather than an attitude of scarcity. And so that's my job as a CEO of a pretty good sized company. And your job as a listener of this podcast of probably a smaller company is to move fast and break things. Think it's okay. And then fix them and take ownership in those things and take responsibility for the places where you break stuff, and then fix it and go. Because if we make a decision, we don't move as fast. We move, I wouldn't say slow, but we move slower than you can. And we still break stuff. We still sometimes don't get it right. And by the time we have to pivot and make a change, then 4, 5, 6 months has passed. You can do all of that within a few weeks. You can make a change in 24 hours. You can test that change out over the course of the next month, and you can decide if it's working or not and pivot or continue or put more money behind it or do the paid ads or whatever. And so you can move faster than us. And I would challenge you to do that. Like you should do those things, because there are going to be clients that we will not be able to reach that you will. And we believe in the transformative power of strength. We believe it improves quality of life, what we do. We believe we're different. And those of you who are listening to this podcast are different than the average online coach or fitness influencer that's, taking pictures of their butt or their abs and posting it on Instagram. And so we want to help you figure out where you have an advantage in the industry, and it's with speed and cost. And so it's okay to break the rules on speed and cost, to be able to try to gain some of that market share, to grow your client base, to grow your revenue. That's the lever that you can pull, because you don't probably have $100,000 or $1 million or whatever in the bank. But what you do have is you have the ability to move fast and potentially break things. And if you do it well and you make good decisions, every time you pivot or you move fast, it'll be a correct choice and you won't break stuff. And then sometimes you will break stuff. And when you break stuff, you make a quick change, again, faster than we could make. And you pivot and you see like, okay, this was a good move at, a 70% level, but 30% of this needs to be tweaked. Okay, you can make the 30% tweak in 48 hours. For Barbell Logic to make a 30% tweak, that's going to take us 2 months, right? And so that's when it's okay to break the rules. Everyone doesn't have to have a singular manager. In the beginning, as the business owner and entrepreneur, you are all of those things. You're the owner, the manager, the technician. You start to hire out the technician. The technicians respond or report up to you as the owner. Eventually, there's a manager they report to, and then the manager reports to you. And the org chart just grows from there. But if you're in that small space of, say, 5 employees or less, you really have some leverage to move fast and move cheap. And so that's when it's okay to break the rules. There you go. It's another Friday episode of the Coaching Success Series. I hope you guys have a great weekend. We have a great week next week. I'll be back finally at home. I haven't been in my home in like 3 weeks because I've been on the road for 3 straight weeks. Flying from one place to the other is just one of those weird times a year. It's been great. Luckily, my family's been able to travel with me in the middle trip. So I haven't been away from my family for 3 weeks. But boy, I'm ready to be home and sleep in my bed with my weighted blanket and my 8 Sleep, which does not support the podcast, but is a wonderful thing. And I can't wait to be back in my own house. It's 106 in Austin. It was 114 in Las Vegas a couple weeks ago. I'm on the 12th floor of the Marriott downtown. The hallway outside my room is probably 97, literally. And my room is like at 82. And if you know me, and for those of you who've ever come and stayed at my house, I keep my house at 65. So 82 is unbearable for a hotel room. So I can't wait to be home. I'll fly home tomorrow. By the time you listen to this, I'm going to be on an airplane and I'm going to be heading back to my house. And I can't wait to be there and see my family and friends and go to church again and do all that stuff and get back to normal life. By the way, shout out, congrats to my daughter, Kaylin. You guys have heard some about her. She graduated from cosmetology school. She crushed it. And she did her first interview at really one of the most respected salons in town and got the job on the first interview. There's a part of me as a dad almost kind of wanted her to fail a couple times, wanted her to not get the job. And then there was another part of me that was just like incredibly proud as a dad. And so she started her job yesterday. Kaylin, if you hear this, I'm super proud of you. She was able to do it. She's a great people person. She's like a 19-year-old female version of me, which is probably good in places and terrible in other places, but she's great at talking to people and building relationships and making friendships. And so give a shout out to my kiddo for her first real job, because she's really only worked for me. She's done some nannying and things like that, but she talked about having a job at Chick-fil-A or whatever, somewhere else. And we just decided to not go that route. And so she was tremendously nervous going into her first interview. And then the kid crushed it and got the job. I couldn't believe it. I really thought she wouldn't get it. So Kaylin, if you're listening to this, it's not because I don't think you're good enough. It's just because it's like, man, that's hard to go into your first interview and actually land the job. So pretty exciting for her. Very proud of her. So yeah, proud dad, proud business owner. Love what's going on in the business right now. Again, press release, you guys probably saw, came out. We're landing military contracts left and right. Turnkey Coach is up 175% this year, 175% growth this year. So all kinds of fun stuff going on. I love my job. I'm tired. I'm ready to go home and sleep in my home bed, but I'm not burnout. Anyway, love you guys. Appreciate you giving me your time on a Friday. Hope you have a great weekend and a great week next week. And I'll see you next Friday.